We're late to the party with this one, but after enough requests, it's time to look at Persona 5. And what an interesting project this is. Persona 5 is one of the slickest, most stylish games we've ever played, and unbelievably, it's a last generation game at its core. Just as Persona 4 was released in 2008, years after the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 were already on the market, Persona 5 has taken even longer to arrive. But the wait has been worth it. Persona 5 is awesome, and this time Atlus was smart enough to bring it to a current generation console as well, while it was still hot. Before we jump into it though, this is a story-heavy game, so I opted to stick with footage from the first hour or two. Don't worry, there won't be any real spoilers here. So, leading up to the release, I've heard nothing but praise for the game's presentation, and after seeing it myself, I understand the commotion. If there was a prize for the most stylish menu system in gaming, Persona 5 takes the gold. Even making your way through the options is a joy here. I mean, just look at this. And it's not just the menus either. The way the game effortlessly transitions between different scenes using slick visual design and animation really has to be seen to be believed. I mean, when was the last time you enjoyed a loading screen? Well, now I have an answer to that question. So the thing to know about Persona 5 then is that it has been in development for a long time, starting production around the time of Catherine's release. You remember Catherine, right? That strange puzzle game from Atlus released on PS3 and 360? It was certainly an interesting experience, I'll say that much. Now, Catherine was created using the Gamebryo engine, but it served as a jumping off point for the team into HD game production. In designing Persona 5 then, the team ditched Gamebryo and created an entirely new engine and set of tools to get the job done. While this foray into engine development certainly increased development time, the powerful new tools enabled the team to create the game they set out to make. The tools were created to enable developers to quickly build and modify scenes, which is a good thing because you know how many event scenes are in Persona 5? Well, just under 1,200. Whoa. Of course, the game was initially built with the PlayStation 3 in mind. That was always the target platform here, and you can tell once you jump into things. The game does look awesome, no doubt, but its last generation roots are evident in character and scene detail at least. Character models, for instance, they look great, but the main characters all consist of less than 17,000 triangles. A modest number for sure when talking about a modern game, though it is a massive leap from Persona 4. For comparison's sake, something like, say, Infamous Second Son features 120,000 triangles for the main character. Quite a difference, right? But it's never really just about the raw geometry count, obviously. It's what you do with those polygons that counts, and the Persona team has done a wonderful job capturing the look of Soejima's artwork. The custom shaders designed for the game really help bring the cast to life, and the event scenes are far more intricate than in any previous Atlus RPG. And despite the huge volume of content here, the Persona 5 team only grew to around 70 people at its largest. Okay, so let's talk about the PlayStation 4 version then. This is likely the version that most people will be playing, and prior to release there were even rumors that it might be 1080p at 60 frames per second on the PlayStation 4. But if you've played the game or have simply been watching the footage in this video, it should be pretty clear by now that it is not 60 frames per second. But hey, at least there is a nice boost in resolution here, right? Now, it's disappointing, but still, even at 30 frames per second, there aren't any other performance issues here. And there really shouldn't be, considering its legacy as a PlayStation 3 title. You get a nice, stable level of performance here without any frame pacing errors or any other weirdness at all. It's perfectly acceptable for a role-playing game like this, though 60 frames per second would have been a nice treat. So on PS4 then, you get that higher resolution, along with better quality full motion video sequences and stable performance. If you happen to own a PlayStation 4 Pro then, well, you get nothing extra. The game does not take advantage of the Pro in any way. It's 1080p 30 on all PS4 systems. Now, the game was completed before the Pro was even available, of course, but still, A Pro patch would have been nice here, right? Okay, now we come to the PlayStation 3 version, and this is where things start to get interesting. After all, the PlayStation 3 was the original target platform here, and visually the two compare very favorably. The presentation is nearly identical between the two consoles, save for resolution. Texture filtering is also improved, but that's really only the result of the higher rendering resolution here rather than any changes to the rendering settings. Well, shadow resolution is also increased on the PS4. Clearly the objective here was to deliver the same game on both platforms without making compromises to anything else. And thanks to the striking art direction, well, it still looks really nice on a PS4. But of course, if you're still rocking a PS3, the game looks pretty amazing as an RPG. So there's minimal difference between them, right? Well, that's true except for one major exception: performance. It didn't take long before we started to notice an issue on PlayStation 3. That being screen tearing. The PS3 version of Persona 5 exhibits screen tearing on a regular basis. In fact, nearly every scene exhibits the artifact to some degree. I haven't had a chance to play quite as far as I would have liked in this version, but thus far only a select few areas managed to avoid it completely. It's sort of an ever-present issue. Now on the plus side, the impact to fluidity is kept to a minimum as the frame rate itself hangs very close to 30 frames per second, but those tear lines do appear pretty regularly, and unlike modern games, which tend to limit this to the top portion of the image, Persona 5 suffers from tearing throughout the entire image. Yikes. The result is a game that just doesn't feel quite as fluid as it should on Sony's last generation machine. Screen tearing appears often enough that it definitely can become distracting. Now, of course, it plays fine, but if you have the choice, clearly the PlayStation 4 version is where it's at. That's not the only difference we noticed either. Loading times are also slightly quicker on the PS4, as you can see here. Again, things still move quick enough on PlayStation 3 not to drag the experience down, but everything just feels snappier on Sony's newer console. But that's really kind of about it. The game is beautiful, but on PS3 it doesn't quite deliver the level of polish that we had hoped for. And as it's been available in Japan for quite some time now, you really shouldn't expect any sort of performance patch either. Of course, if you care about frame rate, you've probably already made the jump to the PlayStation 4 anyways, so while it's nice that PS3 receives a decent version of the game, clearly the PS4 version is the one to get. Of course, on the flip side, even with those performance issues, Persona 5 does actually stand out as one of the best looking PlayStation 3 RPGs on the market by far. So there is that, right? Anyways, that's enough from me for now. If you enjoyed this video, definitely be sure to give us a like, subscribe to our channel, and follow us on Twitter. And until next time, keep playing Persona. Seriously, it's really good.